Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Napoleon and today we're back with another Enlisted video regarding the premium squads and the event squads, or should I say, a review about them. In today's video, we're doing the event squad of the 308th Anti-Tank Battalion of the 250th Infantry Division, which was given to us in the Moscow campaign for the Allies. Of course, this video has been made possible for the friends at Discord, meaning if you haven't subscribed or joined the Discord, highly suggest that you do. And that said, let's get started with the history. The 250th Rifle Division of the 6th Group of the 10th Regular Rifle Division formed from the cadres of the NKVD. Yes, that NKVD, the secret police of the Soviet Union, as internal troops and as standard rifle infantry divisions, shortly after the German invasion from the Moscow military district. It was largely based on what would become the Stat Table of Organization and Equipment on July 29, 1941, with several variations. It served under the 30th Army in efforts to recover Smolensk in late July and the Drushkashima offensive in August and September, and was quickly reduced to a very weakened state. It was then encircled in the initial stages of Operation Typhoon, but significant men and equipment escaped and spared from being disbanded. In fact, it was actually partially rebuilt by incorporating remnants of the disbanded divisions. In October, it was played a relatively minor role in the defensive preparations around Kalinin as part of the 2nd Army of the Kalinin Front. In early 1942, the 250 was then transferred to the 53rd Army of the Northwestern Group and spent most of the year rebuilding while also containing German forces in the Demyansk pocket. After this position was evacuated at the end of February 1943, the division was then transferred to the Reserve of the Supreme High Command, or the Stavka, and then shipped to the south, joining the 2nd Reserve Army in the Steppe Military District. This soon became the 63rd Army at the Bialystok front, with the 250th was then assigned to the 35th Rifle Corps, where it remained during the duration of the war. During that summer offensive against the German-held salient on Orel, the division then helped to lead the deliberate drive to that city in August, and then advanced through western Russia into Belarus, now in the central late Belarusian and first Belarusian fronts. In the initial stages of Operation Bagration, which this division partook, the 3rd Army, which was given recognition for its role in the liberated city of Bukarest, was shortly therefore achieved Order of the Red Banner and Order of Suvorov. Essentially, this was awarded heavy medals, divisional standards, and so forth. During 1945, it met with corps and armies from the 2nd Belarusian, 3rd Belarusian, and the 1st Belarusian front, with seeing combat in Poland, East Prussia, and then Central Germany. Its subunits were then awarded additional honors and decorations during this period. The 250 was then a distinguished career of a combat unit, ending its combat path along the Elba River, and was disbanded in Belarus in July of 1945. Needless to say, this unit is one of the better units of the rifle divisions. In Enlisted right now, a lot of good history and a lot of interesting stuff. Formed right after the Operation Barbarossa, it was served all the way until the end of the war. In terms of the weapons, we have the AVS-36, which is amazing. The designer Sergei Shimov began his work on a gas-operated self-loading rifle in 1930, and the prototype was ready in 1931. Trials were then made, and in 1935, a competition between his design and Tokarev was then held, of which the AVS-36 was first seen public, and hence, they won the competition in 1938 in a Moscow military parade. Once in service, it became quickly apparent that the AVS was not the best design. The operating mechanism was overcomplicated. The problem was that it was made worse by its rifle's construction, meaning dirt can get into the weapon. The weapon was also had a quality of ammunition, and the muzzle brakes design proved to be quite successful, as the rifle has low overall climb, but the recoil was high, which is also what you see in game. The first service was in Khalkhin and later in the war, but it did not perform well. About 300 AVSs were then captured by the Finns during the Winter War, and the Soviet Union, the AVS was literally discarded for the SVT-38 and SVT-40s. Of course, the US Army would also see to get a hold of these, and they tested that. One, the thing was pretty much very bad, with the fact that the weapon has a gas system that had long sleeves that move to the rear sight, which has a habit of loosening the rear sight, so when you shoot, the sights can essentially move a little bit, so that's very bad. That is not to mention that the United States has gone along with the Soviet findings and found that overall this gun was pretty bad, and the muzzle brake system was also caused heavy recoil and stuff like that. Needless to say, this gun, although in Enlisted is pretty good, in real life it was quite terrible. That said, let's go on to the anti-tank rifle, which is the mainstay. In the USSR, they needed an anti-tank rifle for the development of the anti-tank rifle in March of 1936. Designs of 20mm to 25mm guns weighing in 35 kilograms before 1938. 15 samples were tested, and so in 1936, the Kirov plant number 2 had 2 prototypes already by then, but by in August of 1938, small arms and anti-tank weapons contributed to the company level. Such guns were at first devised once again back in 1937, but then the idea was then tropicals and sights leads to a poor gun. The gun I'm talking about is the Shokunov. And this thing has a bipod, a tropical sight, but it was also rejected by the army due to a lack of armor penetration, a large weight of 47.2, and a poor muzzle brake. In 1938, a slight 37mm gun offered Battalion, the head of the team, then it was then rejected, the anti-tank gun that we have in game right now. Needless to say, I don't like this weapon. I personally do not like this weapon, and I'm gonna say it for the third time, I personally do not like this weapon, and all the things that I've said just before, if it did sound confusing, is really confusing because all the sources I can find are a mismatch of sources, which means that what sources I could find, there was not a lot. But that said, let's move on to the stats. In terms of the AVS-36, we have a damage reduction over time at 13.2, 10.8, 8.8, and so on. Needless to say, this thing has a 3-star, which means that's what you get, In terms of muzzle velocity, we have 815, rate of fire of 600, reload time of 2.7, vertical 103, horizontal of 29, 15-round magazine, and semi-auto and automatic. The Shlokomov ATR, or the anti-tank rifle based on the Gewehr T design, has a damage reduction over time of 200, 190, 180, 140, and so on. Armor penetration is 32mm, which is impressive until you use it on the battlefield. In terms of muzzle velocity is 860, rate of fire 20, reload time of 3 seconds, vertical of 245, not surprising, fed round of 1 magazine, and needless to say, it has a very high weight. Needless to say, do not use the anti-tank gun. I think it is way of a downgrade compared to the Polish WZ-35. Number 1, the magazine. Number 2, the WZ-35 can actually kill things. This can't. And I tried shooting this at point-blank range against tanks, and it still wouldn't work, so I don't want to even try to use it at range. Needs to reload every round, which is also an issue. And overall, I wouldn't use this thing. I literally will throw out the squad. I literally would throw out the squad if it wasn't for the AVS-36. Now, this thing is way better than the ZH-26, in my opinion. It has automatic, which, although the recoil is an issue, I tend to use this thing in close quarters combat, and automatic is very good in that case. Overall, I will think of this squad as one of the worst squads that you can get, definitely a downgrade from the Polish WZ-35. And overall, if I were you, I'll take out the AVS-36, take out whatever they have as equipment, throw the squad out, and give the AVS-36 to my other squads in-game. That is what personally I will do. But overall, that's all it for this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join the Discord. I personally do not like the squad at all. But that said, comment in the comment section down below of what do you think, and I'll see you in the next one.